Barloworld's path to delisting gathered significant momentum this week. Newco, the consortium leading the takeover private transaction, announced that it has received valid acceptances from 108 million ordinary shares under its standby offer, positioning the group firmly on course to take the 122-year-old industrial giant private. Sydney Mhlarhi, spokesperson for Newco, joins us now to unpack the transaction and next steps. Thank you so much for your time, Sydney. Before we actually get into the mechanics of the process that is still left over, I do understand that initially there was opposition from some shareholders on the 120 Rand per share offer. They were stating that it's too low. How did Newco navigate that dissatisfaction?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity this evening. As it relates to that, it wasn't so much the objection to the 120 Rand. Recently, there was a technicality as to what is the final amount that's payable for the takeout. Is it 120 Rand or a number less than that? Okay. And what would have cost the number to be less than that was the treatment of the interim dividend, which was paid in June, whether or not that's reduced from the 120 Rand or it's not. And in the end, the technical difference, although the consortium didn't agree with the ruling of the regulator on that score, in the interest of progress and also for the benefit of the shareholders, who some of them have vendored in their shares throughout the prolonged period of the fulfillment of the conditions relating to the deal, and now it was just awaiting payment, decided to pay out at the 120 Rand, which payments have already started occurring starting last week.
All right. At this point, where does Newco stand in terms of its stake in Barloworld? I know that there's a certain threshold that needs to be reached to be able to delist Barloworld.
Yes, that threshold is 90% of the shareholders who were actually eligible to accept the shares, which means that the shareholders that are not owned or already owned by the consortium and the foundation at the time the offer was made. Yeah. And as it stands, as per the last announcement, the consortium shares plus the shares that have been surrendered by the rest of the shareholders makes the consortium an 81% owner of Barloworld as of the last announcement. And that's before the subsequent tenders that have been occurring. And as and when they reach an appropriate threshold, the company will make the correct announcements on that score.
All right. Talk to me about the timelines then that you are working with here on the standby offer acceptances.
The standby offer remains open for acceptances as we speak until the 7th of November. In terms of payments occur every Wednesday. Okay. So for those who tender by the end of this Friday, 12 o'clock on this Friday, will be paid the following Wednesday. Those who tendered Friday last week will be paid tomorrow. And that pattern repeats itself until the 7th of November, which is the final closing date for the standby offer. But the shareholders don't have to wait until the end, especially those who desire to receive payments earlier.
Well, what about those who do wait for the end and actually miss that 7th of November deadline? And just shareholders who basically don't accept that standby offer by the closing date, what happens to them?
So if by that closing date, the consortium has reached the 90% threshold, as soon as they reach that 90% threshold, they can announce that the remaining shareholders their shares will be acquired compulsorily through what's called a squeeze out of the remaining shareholders. But they have to reach the 90% threshold first. If the threshold is not reached by the closing date, obviously a possibility exists that the company can then remain listed on the stock exchange. That's if the extension date itself is not extended. But at this stage, we're looking at the 7th of November as the closing date, and the consortium has confidence of reaching the threshold of 90% prior to that date in order to then effect a delisting of the company and what's called a squeeze out.
If everything does go according to plan and everything is, moves accordingly until the 7th of November, when would Barloworld delist from the JSE?
So it will delist, roughly some 45 days afterwards, because it follows a certain regulated process that unfolds after that date.
All right. And just lastly, as we wrap up the conversation, Sydney, any other information that Barloworld shareholders and the market should take note of?
Yeah, at this stage, their focus really it's on the admin processes that are required in order to effect the 90% threshold. So the shareholders have been informed, and they can query and follow up and give instructions with their intermediaries, their stockbrokers, and they can obviously reach out into official channels into the company to the extent they have queries as it relates to this.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that, and just really giving information to shareholders that maybe were not sure about the process going forward from here on out. Really appreciate your time, Sydney. That was Sydney Mhlarhi, spokesperson for Newco.